Alright, so we got a little bit of a midweek update here. And lo and behold, believe it or not, we are putting some primer on. There's Little John doing his thing, getting primer on there. Little hard to get a good shot of it here since we're kind of not in a position to get a good look at the boat. But yeah, we need to do fairing and whatnot over top of this. But yeah, it's going on all right, and I don't think we're going to have to worry about spending just too much time fairing this. I mean, there's some seams that obviously need to be faired just a little bit, but I don't think we're going to go nuts. I was talking about this being a 100-foot boat. It'll look good from 100 feet. I think maybe it'll look good from 20 feet even. And John agreed with that. Didn't you, Johnny?
It looks good right now from where I'm sitting.
Yeah. So we're testing this primer out. We just got this forward area on the port side here, 16 feet of it, or whatever, sanded and prepped and cleaned and ready to prime. I wanted to give this primer a test, really, to see what I thought of it and how it worked and whatnot. So I'm going to hold my final judgment until we maybe sand this a little bit and see how it goes. But yeah, so far I'd say it's going fine. So yeah, we'll get back to you again later in the week. Hello, welcome back to the boat shop. Today is May 20th of 2025, and kind of promised you a week or so ago, or a little better, that I would do a bit of an update. And so here it is. We've got some gray, gloomy, wet weather, cool weather that has followed some summer-like 90-degree weather. In the meantime, I have had my surgery. That was a week ago tomorrow, so I'm 6 days after my surgery, my bladder surgery for cancer, and I'm doing all right. Yeah, quite the experience, but I'm still here at least. And you can see before I left for the surgery, I was doing some sanding here. Little John and I had done some painting, and then I had done some sanding and whatnot, starting to get things at least closer to being ready, you know, for priming and painting. We got our first layer of primer on some of this anyway. And Little John now, in my absence while I've been gone, has been working on a couple of things. Sanding down here, of course, you know, getting more of this stuff ready for finishing. And then he's been working on all these screw holes back here, getting them filled, and started sanding those. And he's also been filling screw holes on the deck, which is a little easier to do. You're crawling around your hands and knees, which isn't fun, but it's a little easier to work up there and sand up there than it is in particular underneath the boat. So he's been working on that. I've got some more video that I shot yesterday that I'm going to include on the end of this video, and that is video of me talking to John about systems, bilge pump, and then I guess maybe the through hulls, and then a little bit about the sump shower removal for the aft cabin, or the aft head. So that's not really too interesting to you probably. If you don't want to watch it, that's fine. But that'll be at the end of this video. And as for me, again, I'm doing okay. The doctors found exactly what they expected to find. They found massive amounts of cancer in my bladder. It's getting analyzed now. Next week I've got an appointment again, and they're going to formulate a plan of attack for the cancer. So we shall see. In the meantime, they've given me, oh, there goes Archie. In the meantime, they've given me some good drugs to take and to help deal with the pain. Yeah, we'll just go from there, and I'll kind of keep you posted on what's happening there too. But again, it is what it is, and there's no sense in dwelling on that just too terrible much. But yeah, so we're gonna have some videos some archival type of footage for Little John, so he knows what I was thinking on some of these systems and how I did some of these things. And we will continue to do those probably in the coming weeks. All right, we will talk to you again next week. Okay, we're going to talk about the wiring, and in particular, to start out with here, the bilge pumps just a little bit. I have got all the bilge pumps in place. I think you've seen it probably in the past.
Yeah. I am. Don't stand on it?
Yeah.
Didn't know it went clear.
You have to pull it out a little bit as you pull it out. Just leave it sitting on there, but just lean it up against the wall.
Alright.
Okay, so the bilge pumps are all in the initial wiring, at least, is all run. So this is one of the big 2,200 gallon per hour pumps.
Okay.
The switch down here, this black thing,
Right.
that is the switch for the pump.
Yes.
That's all wired in and ready to go, and it's automatic. When the water gets up, a couple inches there or whatever, it'll turn the pump on. The float switch there, the white ones, and I have one of these with each one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just float switches that go to nothing right now, and what I was going to do is hook those up to alarms.
Oh.
So that they'll, turn on a buzzer or whatever.
Yep.
So if we get water coming up and bilge pumps aren't handling it, those alarms should come on and they'll run up to the pilot house. And these yellow wires here are the ones that are hooked up to the float switches on the alarm system.
Okay.
And they will all come up. You see those 4 wires coming out?
Yes.
Those are the alarm switch wires, all bundled together there.
All right.
So at some point those will have to be run to an alarm system up in the pilot house. But that's what those are for. So they aren't really critical to anything other than just an alarm system. Mm-hmm. Now I also ran the hoses right away to all these. These 2 big pumps. I think it's 1.25 inch hose. And you can see it's coming up here. Just runs up to there.
Okay.
And so we'll need a through hull to get out of the boat. And with bilge pumps, I was talking about vented loops. Right. And if we put these high enough on the water, above the water line, we shouldn't need vented loops on these.
Right.
These also have one-way valves in them.
Okay.
And there's a lot of debate as to whether you use the one-way valve or not. I left the one-way valves in all the pumps. So that would be another line of defense to keep water from flooding in.
Yeah, I don't see any negative to leaving them in.
Well, they slow the pump down a little bit.
They do.
It's a little bit more resistance. It's kind of like a flapper valve, a joker valve. Mm-hmm. And they will slow the water down a little bit. But anyway, but they are all still installed in all 4 pumps. Right. So when we go to mount the through hulls, that's going to have to go up in there somewhere.
Yeah.
The through hull above the water line,
yeah. And
then it'll just pump the water out of the boat. Should be clean, easy, simple. Shouldn't be a real big problem. And like I said, I ran the hoses all to the side of the boat so that it'd be relatively easy to hook up.
Do you have the fittings for the bulkhead fittings yet for these?
Some of them I do, but probably not all of them. Okay, so the wires coming from the bilge pumps, they're all right here, and they're all labeled. Saloon bilge, which would be that one right there we were just looking at. Chain locker bilge, aft bilge, and then the engine room bilge. So this one here, the engine room bilge, is another big one, 2,200 gallon per hour pump. So these will run to a fuse block here. That's what this box here is for. And these are the circuits coming off. There's 4 circuits. So these 4 wires will attach to the positive leads. Mm-hmm. And then the negatives will have to come to just a ground block somewhere, which is what this is and this is. So this is wired permanently. It is after a big T-class fuse here. This is probably a 250 amp. Oh! 300 amp, okay. This would be like the main fuse if something massive short circuits in the system here. This is a 300 amp fuse, so it'll handle the run the inverter and everything. You know,
that's all 2-aught cable.
Yeah, this is all 2-aught. But anyway, so our power comes from our house batteries, comes in here, goes to this big fuse here, which protects basically, you know, everything in the batteries. Then we come off here, and we're going to a smaller, and this is a...
You want me to run the camera?
And this is an... Oh, I can probably see it. This is an A&L fuse, different type of fuse.
A&L.
A&L. It's a 200 amp fuse in there. And we've got, I don't know what this is, probably 2-gauge wire coming out of here into this block here then. So this is all protected through a fuse here as well, you know. And then of course these are fuses in here. So if you ever want to turn a bilge pump off, literally turn it off, these are regular just spade fuses that go in here. I got tons of fuses to go in there, but that's how those will be protected.
Yeah, if for some reason the switch went bad and it just wouldn't shut off.
Yeah, if for some reason you need to shut the bilge pumps off, that's the way you do it. Otherwise they're going to be on all the time, because you really don't want to accidentally turn the bilge pumps off.
Right.
So if you turn the power off to the boat, you're going to do that here, the house power. You're going to turn that off here with this switch. And if you do that, you wouldn't kill the power to the bilge pumps.
Off before.
Yeah.
Splits off before here. Okay.
Yeah. And then this comes up to another just a bus bar. Here's another fuse that protects the inverter, which it should be protected anyway, but just another one. And then this is another fuse, and this line here goes up into the 12-volt system up there.
Right.
That supplies power to the circuit breakers, the 12-volt circuit breakers in here. And we're going to have another one of these, probably a bigger one, up in the pilot house.
Right.
12-volt. That's going to control all the boat systems, like the lights and instrumentation and all that. But this is for the stuff primarily down here. Yeah, does that all make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so these would hook up to your positive on your bilge pumps, and then the negatives would hook up to one of these ground blocks. And then your bilge pumps would all be hooked up. Now, again, we need to get these pointing out of the boat before we put in the water, but yeah, that's how we got that all set up.
So there'll be 4 of those hoses that go through the hull.
Yeah, and these big pumps use, I think it's 1.25 inch, and the 2 small pumps at either end of the boat, that's going to be 3/4 inch through hulls.
Right.
But that's you know, it looks, you start getting a mess of wires, and it's going to get worse, of course, before it gets better. But it looks kind of intimidating. But if you just kind of follow things back.
Yeah.
And everything is labeled. I put labels on everything. I wrote on these as to which ones those go to. Obviously, we'll need to splice into those to get it up to the pilot house at some point. But that's not a huge concern just yet. You know, we don't need to worry about. We don't have a pilot house yet.
Are those like 22 gauge or 18 gauge or whatever?
Which ones?
Those yellow wires?
They're 14.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Okay, on this plumbing here, on this sink here, normally we have pressurized water that supplies all of our, faucets and whatnot in the boat. This one here is a manual pump.
Okay.
And it draws water out of, whichever one you have open back there. But the problem is, if you open the aft tank, it's higher than this valve, the far aft water tank,
Okay.
and it'll drain out. So I put a valve down here, feeding that line, so you can close it. So if you're running water off that aft tank, you have to close that, or you'll drain it all out through the sink here. But the reason for this pump is simply
Closed now, isn't it?
Yes.
How'd you get water out of it?
Well, because we're not drawing off that tank. We're not drawing off the aft tank. We'll show you that here in a second. But anyway, this is just a drinking water filter here. So it's the 0.5 micron filter.
That's against the back wall there.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Let's see. So the reason for this would be if we lost all 12 volt electrical power, we could still have access to some water.
Yeah.
That's the only reason for that there.
And it could be drinkable.
It should be drinkable if we're putting filtered water. If we're putting water maker water into our tanks, yeah, you should be able to drink it. Okay, and here is your choice of where you get water from. Right now, the 3 tanks, those 46-gallon tanks up there in the saloon under the floor, that's these 3 here. And I've got these 3 all open right now, so it's just drawing from all 3 tanks.
Okay.
So it'll draw, 150 gallons or thereabouts. And this is the aft tank. I'm calling it the transom tank.
Right.
And it's closed.
That's that big one. It's a little higher up
Yep.
back there.
Yep. So we're not using off this one. If we wanted to use this one, we'd close these 3.
So that'd be like a reserve.
And now we'd be drawing off that tank in the aft. But I don't know. I don't like that tank back there. It's way in the back of the boat and it's up higher.
Yeah.
So it puts weight up higher and back farther where we don't want it.
Right.
So I'm not thrilled about that, but there may be cases where we want the extra water capacity. That's a bigger tank. It's a 65-gallon tank.
Yeah.
So if we want extra water capacity, if we're going offshore, maybe the water maker didn't work or something, we could fill it and use it, and But to fill that tank back there, we have to pump water out of these tanks to fill that back tank.
All right.
So that's the transom fill. It's just kind of a loop deal here. So when you turn this on, you hear that? There, the pump just turned on. So we were pumping water from these 3 tanks now back there.
Okay. And then these ones fill back up through the water maker then?
Yeah, either the water maker or this PVC pipe up here. I got just a paper towel in there to keep it clean, but we're going to put a deck fill on the boat too.
All right.
So we'll have to put a fitting in here and then run a line over there so that we can actually fill our water tanks from outside the boat.
Yep.
So that'll just be a screw-off valve on the side deck over there, so that we can put water in from a dock or whatever.
Right.
If the water maker isn't working or whatever,
So if you don't have a lot of people on board, you could close one of these and treat it as a reserve then.
Yeah. Yep. I know that may be a little confusing, that filling that aft tank, but you kind of get the gist, don't you?
I think I got it. Yeah.
So, and I was talking earlier about. Here, this doesn't need to be back here. I was talking earlier about the aft head, the bathroom back there.
Right.
It's got it all drains. It all drains into that thing down there.
Okay.
So any of that, we can hook any of those drains up, and then the output is the one that curls around there.
Yes.
And that pumps up into the gray water tank. And so then any of these other 3 fittings, you can drain water into this box, and then it's automatic. So it'll pump water out of this box. So
those other 2 are just capped right now?
Yeah, you'd have to saw them off to
I see.
to use them. But that's something we should carry an extra one of these pumps with us too, because they don't last forever.
Yeah. Yeah, because it'd be, doing a fair amount of work.
Yeah. Oops, here, can you hold this?
Sure.
I'm not gonna be able to get both of these at the same time. Oops, I still did. There. All right. Make sense so far?
Yep. This is where you exhaust.